Hello, everyone. We are live today again, and today we have another tech star, Rupen Chanda. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you very much for inviting me. Much
Thank you
appreciated.
so much to talk about our what he has done, some interesting stuff he has done here, and things. He's a techie, an amazing one, CTO of CTO and vice president. He has been CTO and vice president of BlackBerry as well. So, Ruben, you can introduce yourself. Who you are.
Sure. So I have been working at Bluescape since December of 2018, and prior to that, I was at BlackBerry and Adobe, and I have started my career at a startup company called Middlesoft. Um, so during the journey, my technical journey, what I have primarily worked on is that a lot of graphics, multimedia, cloud security, a lot of different areas. Had a chance to work with, had a chance to work with many of the highly capable person as well. So collaborated, learned with a lot of people from different parts of the world, different parts of the industries, um, and here we are right now at Bluescape. We are trying to do something in the visual collaboration, rich content media collaboration space at this point.
One thing you forgot. Have.
I'm sorry.
How many patents you have registered to your name?
Uh, I generally don't like to prefer to talk about it because I see a lot of people, you know, I believe in humility and humbleness. So, but since you asked me, I have roughly about 68 or 70 patents so far.
Oh,
But
I was reading around 50. But it exceeded.
was that?
Reading around 50, but you are saying it is 65.
Yeah, 68 or 70 at this point of time.
Right. So this has shocked me. So how can you do that? That's so amazing.
um, you know, I would not take all the credits because there are a lot of highly talented people I had a chance to work with. And here I'm going to say that, I generally believe in a very different perspective. And one of my opportunity that came about in my early part of the career while working with the Macromedia and Adobe was that I had team members from many different parts of the world, people working from different geography when they grew up. They had a different way of thinking and etc. That gave a very, I would say, diverse set of thinking. And that made me understand things differently. And one very important element I always say is that I like to surround myself with the people who has a competing point of views, even if I don't agree, because often the time I found that my idea was not the best idea, and the person I'm working with, they might have a different idea. So jointly, we came up with a very different idea than what I or the other person thought about. So this kind of willing to accept that I could be wrong, someone may have a better idea, and maybe jointly we can come up with the first superior idea. That mindset helps in every aspect of it.
Yes. But when you have 68, 70 patents registered with your name, I think nobody would dare to disagree with you.
There lies the problem. There lies the problem is that, so I'll give you a little bit of a experience early on my career. Was that sometime in 2004 or 5, early part of my career, you had this thinking, okay, you always want to prove yourself you are right. And I had this whole mentality that I want to be right. But you see, um, uh, this comes from a more of a, if you look at the animal kingdom in the forest, two animals, they're playing. If one animal is a very strong and other is weak, if you always win, then you will see that the person The animal who is weak, they will lose the interest of playing. So what you want to do is that you have to let other person win also sometime. Even if someone is not 100% right, if someone is a 70, 80% right, think of they are also smart enough. Do not think yourself
Right.
you are too smart. And so the willingness to think that somebody else could be smarter than you is actually a very important element. And we all miss it
Right.
because most of the engineers think that I'm the smartest person. I'm the best thing next to the sliced bread. So we have to get rid of that particular thinking.
That is the key to must not work, man. So tell me, initially your education was from India, right? And
Yes, I did my undergraduate in engineering from India. Then I came to US and Texas for my master's degree. I did my grad school, and then I started my career.
so looking at your capabilities, you went to ask for the visa or they came to give you the visa?
Pardon me, can you please repeat?
I'm saying, looking at your capabilities, you applied for visa or they came, please come,
No,
join
no, no,
us
no.
in the tech sector,
You
right?
know, I'm going to, you know, I have a very humble or the very, I would say, um, humble roots. My
Mhm.
family, I came from super poor family, extremely poor family. So for
Right.
me, it goes back. I will not go to the history of that. But dad did very well. He's an illiterate person. My mom is also illiterate person.
Mhm.
What always inspired from my dad is that my dad cried to me that he wants to have education. So that inspired me a lot. So to be how to become a real education for me, he always said that I don't want you to be the in the class first or second. That doesn't matter, but try to learn as much as possible. And that kind of started my journey. And talking about the visa, when I know many people from the subcontinent or other parts of the world, many people want to come for education in US. I still remember when I went for my student visa at Madras. um,
Right.
a lot of people got rejected, and 5 people before me got rejected, but then my turn came in. One of the things I did, I was not gung ho that I have to go to US, but I was very
Yeah.
focused that I want to do well, I want to learn. And I had besides my academic credentials back in Madras, I participated many technical competitions, things I've done. Those kind of helped me. So I had a full fellowship. So when I came, it kind of made the things easier when it came to visa. So, but that's a journey. Then everyone has a unique journey, and I appreciate all.
And that is so inspiring. It's so amazing from where you came and the hard work and now the position you had. So that is a learning for a lot of people looking at us right now, that see how what success looks like. And here's the example in front of you. So amazing. I'm so blown away. You can say that your journey is amazing, right? Uh, Tell us about your experience at Adobe and because the time for working there in Adobe, they have changed whole journey, whole experience from the desktop having applications to SaaS application, right? And the time you were in the BlackBerry, speaking many curves in the BlackBerry, right? Because BlackBerry was at the top one time and then vanished almost. Right? So tell us about that. What do you think about that? And what were the reasons? What were your learnings from their journey so that people out there can understand how these things go and how they can find these things about the things that found the company.
Okay. I'll try to, share phase by phase, little by little, and please ask questions. I'll be more than happy to kind of, rather than it being a big monologue, I'll try to keep it short. So my first thing was that when I was finishing my grad school, um, at the time, after finishing studies, people want to get jobs. So did I. And one of the important thing when you start your career was that people get way too caught up that who gets how much compensation, how much salary, way too got caught up. I remember in my grad school when I was finishing up, everyone was trying to kind of say, hey, I got this job, this much comp, this much salaries, and people should think about it. I had my, before that I did my internship at Applied Materials. That's when I did my master's thesis and all. But important thing was that um, I was not sure what to do. So I had, 4 or 5 job offers at that point of time. Um, I want to think through it. So I went to the experts, my university professor, who was also department head as well. He used to be a former chief scientist at Texas Instrument. I was very close to him. I asked his advisement, and he gave a couple of pieces of advice. So these are not my advice. I'm actually passing on the information what he shared with me, and I'm going to share here. Is that he said at the beginning of the career, do not think about money. Think about where you can learn most. That was his first statement. His
Mhm.
second one was that see where you can grow. Whichever job you take, try to stick there at least 4 to 5 years. The reason,
Right.
it's a simple reason. If you switch your job at the beginning of the year, sometimes it's not possible. Maybe company had a layoff and etc. Those things are there. But if you think about it, you start learning your trade or the domain when you join a company at the beginning of your career. It takes at least a 12 to 15 months for you to get the really productive. And if you change your job in 2 years, what happens is that you essentially did not develop a deep knowledge. And he said that always do not think anytime you take a new job, think about
Right.
can you set your career up for next 5 years? Is it going to prepare you for that? Those are the simple principles he gave. And with those in mind, I kind of had a job for the Intel, Motorola, Microsoft, so on and so forth. I joined a tiny startup company in Bay Area, Silicon Valley. It's
Right.
called Middlesoft. We had a objective of creating a rich graphics UX framework for handheld devices, and started there. 5 people company, had a chance to work on pretty much everything in the sense is that doing architecture, design, graphics, multimedia. And as we are doing things, our company got acquired by Macromedia, and I became the part of the original Flash team, Flash
Right.
at Macromedia. And that's how I started my journey. So then Adobe came along at 2005 when they bought the thing. So during this time, one of the important things, I do not try to specialize. My whole objective was to try to become a generalist, touching
Right.
everything that's there. So before I get to the Adobe, any questions so far?
Jack of all, master of none.
Um, great questions you asked.
Yeah.
Um, this is where the the engineering discipline, how you create yourself engineering discipline. So there are a couple of ways over the years you can. I have analyzed it. I said vast majority engineers, they develop their domain expertise in a 1 or 2 areas. They go 40, 50, 60, 70% deep. Then there are a few
Right.
areas. They go very deep in 1 or 2 areas. Then there are engineers where they want to learn many areas, but you have to have a certain mindset that, hey, when I'm getting into new areas, I may be the bottom of the pack. That means you have to have a humility, empathy, and kindness so you can learn from others. Try to learn
Right.
as fast as possible. So you go to the bottom of
Mhm.
the pack, learn very fast, climb up, move to the next one. So you develop that mindset, and that lets you become essentially a person who can connect the dots in a too many areas. You can work on the compiler VM to the security, multimedia, graphics, could be a cloud deployment, cloud infrastructure, authentication authorization model. You can pretty much touch and understand many things out there. So it
Right.
depends. It has a different mindset kind of thing, but that's something I try to strive. There is no end of learning. Even today, I myself find that I know nothing. So it's a lifelong learning process.
I'm getting inspired from your answer. Like, this is how a techie should be. This is what approach looks like. Right? So once you have this learning attitude, you go along on a high path and you do such things, right? So
Yeah,
my next question regarding Adobe was that Adobe changed their whole business, right? Initially, there was software, and then they shifted themselves towards SaaS. That was a completely different model. How do you see that thing, and how big that change was, and what was the key point of their success?
absolutely. So, as you know, I was part of so-called, Macromedia's Flash activities. Macromedia's
Yeah.
Flash business was a big business when Adobe bought Macromedia. Very big business. There are, billions of dollars Adobe made out of Macromedia things when they purchased Macromedia in 2005. Um, as things were going, one of the thing about the Flash's demise, where the Flash did not succeed, is we as a company at that time, um, we could not accept this called the creative destruction process. There are certain mindset was created that, hey, we cannot cannibalize the existing business. There are certain things behind the scene information that I even now also I don't want to share in a public domain. There are certain decisions company made that had implications. I'll give you
Mhm.
an example so that you can connect the dots from there. Imagine imagine that 2004 2005 when the YouTube was started. YouTube is the content. Macromedia used to say that content is the king, and Flash was a platform. At
Yeah.
that time, YouTube was a built on top of Flash. I'll give you a
Yes.
data point. The YouTube was making 4 or 5 times of the revenue in 2006 or 7 compared to what the Flash business was making. So if you think about it, why is that? And why is that Adobe did not get in? Well, there are certain decision process and etc. was different. And so this entire content layer, Adobe could not won, and Adobe was most on the platform side of things out there. And that kind of helped Apple to instigate that I can change the platform, you can play the content somewhere else. It's a much
Mhm.
easier. But if you imagine a scenario, if Adobe would have owned the entire YouTube content layer, they could not have done that. So anyway, when but there is certain things Adobe did very well, exceedingly well. When this entire Flash business kind of started falling apart, and top of that cloud was coming in, Adobe kind of took the chance, saying that I'm going to move a whole scale switching from the box software to a cloud software. And
Yes.
that those kind of decision often the time requires, it is not the grassroots, it has to come from the top. So that means
Yes.
the CEO of the company needs to make that kind of decision that I'm going to change it no matter what. That requires a technology, product team, sales team,
Right.
evangelism team, support team, everything needs to change. So
Mhm.
I had a chance to be part of that effort as well. It was a many people's effort, and not a single person could do it. It's a giant effort.
Of course.
And because Adobe made this early bet and executed it, and they were able to go to that direction very well. So they were one of the early, mover on that side of it. And not many companies took that chance, and that paid off
I think
significantly.
it needs a lot of guts to do that kind of thing because that was a whole transformation in which you're going onto the SaaS model from a desktop application. That needs a lot of guts. The whole credit goes to the team that time took that decision.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move forward toward the BlackBerry. BlackBerry had a journey. They had seen their peak and then they vanished almost. You were there in BlackBerry as well. How do you see that?
Sure. So my engagement with BlackBerry was interesting in the sense is that I, when I was in Adobe at that time, between Adobe and BlackBerry QNX, there were certain projects were there, building the BlackBerry playbook and etc. At that time, I got engaged. There was a CEO to CEO engagement was there, and I was put in charge to drive that project. And that's how I kind of became very familiar with the BlackBerry's leadership team, CEO, CTO, and SVP of engineering of these things. So during my engagement, I'm a big believer of that hands-on leadership, not a micromanagement, but a hands-on leadership. No matter how senior you become as a technical leader, I do believe that you have to know, continue to learn the technical architecture design very much in details. It requires your constant learning. You simply cannot be an operational leader. It doesn't work very well. So during my engagement, somehow they felt that I might be able to be instrumental to BlackBerry's turnaround. BlackBerry was, as you know, was going down dramatically. Just to give you an idea, by 2012, 2013, when BlackBerry was launching BlackBerry 10 phone, at that time, Android and iOS already had a combined 90% market share. Basic rule of thumb is that in any domain, you cannot have any more than four large player. So if each of the player already has a 50% plus market share, breaking into it, unless you create a completely game-changing product, you cannot get into the market. So
So
BlackBerry
that means,
spent more.
that
What's
means
that?
until unless you are creating something disruptive, you should not jump into that,
That's correct.
right?
Yeah. BlackBerry, against the grain, spent 100 plus millions of dollars to launch BlackBerry 10. It was too little, too late. I was
Right.
brought into the company with the true mandate: help the company to finish the BlackBerry 10 within my capacity, whatever I can, with my team, plus essentially creating a spark of innovation in different areas of enterprise security software collaborations, because they realize that they have to come up with something else. The phone market is that boat has been a ship has been sailed. They could not do anymore. So I pretty much came to the company at the end part of the phone era, then
Mhm.
started this different journey of coming changing the company from the handset phone maker to
Mhm.
enterprise software security services. It's a non-trivial problem. Now, often the time people ask me, why did I leave and what it was? Why did I leave Adobe? Adobe is a fantastic company to work for. I would not say otherwise. However, when I was approached by BlackBerry's CEO, CTO, I realized that in my lifetime, I may not have a chance to learn that how to help the company to turn around. I kind of went back to the drawing board, thinking about my grad school professor's guideline that where I can learn most, rather than thinking money. And I said, no matter the risk, there's a lot of risk involved. Adobe was a hugely successful company, and here BlackBerry is when I joined, company was started laying off people. I said that I want to join. I want to learn to see what it is, how to even discipline, put a strict discipline, because remember, it is not just a technology. If you want to be an engineering leader, technology, people, financial discipline, you have operation, you have execution, you have to understand all of it. I thought myself I could never learn those things if I stay at Adobe, because you don't have a right opportunity for that matter. So I took a risk. I joined. I had an incredible amount of learning, as well as, of course, a lot of tough times were there. When I joined, just to give you an idea, BlackBerry was an 18,000 people company. By the time I left the company, it was 4,500 people company. You can imagine the, the large layoff had happened. So those are tough time. When that happens, you have to be very mindful. My heart still breaks when I have to deal with those kind of tough situations. See what best you can do. How do you help them people? How do you build friendship? How do you care for people? Um, Difficult situation, but at the same time, it's also learning. It's also reality of life, law of economics. There's nothing we can do about it. But had a very interesting journey as well at BlackBerry. I probably lost you, Mohammed.
Hello.
Yes, I probably lost you for a moment.
So there was some technical glitch. Okay, we were at the BlackBerry, right? And
Did you
let's
hear
move
my
forward.
last part?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
saying let's move forward in your experience, and then that time when you came in a company like the time BlackBerry was facing. That time is normally very hard, and the position you were going, that was very challenging. What motivated you to take that challenge? Because you know that things are already going wrong, right? And at that time when things are already going wrong, you take the responsibility. What was the motivation for that?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you, the BlackBerry leadership, like CEO, CTO, they were talking to me for 2 years directly, more
Mhm.
private basis for me to come and join BlackBerry, and I had a lot of reservation. Uh, One of my important thing was that at Adobe, for because I worked there for many years, I have a lot of friends, a lot of close relationship with many people. I did not want to leave that. Um, yes, there was a risk involved, but that was a secondary for me. But eventually, the reason I decided to join was that I asked myself that would I get opportunity or learning in my life where I'll be part of, salvaging or turning around a company. It's
Right.
a non-trivial effort. And one of the anecdote when I learned in my early in my life is that it is the rough sea that makes the best captain. So I
Oh,
wanted to follow myself into stupidly enough, I said let's go to the rough sea so they can learn how to essentially in the difficult time, how do you essentially steer the ship, how do you innovate, how do you keep the mindset alive, how do you efficiently optimize your operations. So you have to do whole gamuts of things. So it is that learning, and I also remembered my grad school professor who said that always think about the learning. So it was very difficult time. Company used to be
yeah.
18,000 people. From there, it came down to 4,500 people. So
Mm.
you have to think differently. You have to be kind and empathetic to everyone. So yes, I took the journey and I do not regret it. It is a great learning for me. It is a learning that really drives me even today as well.
Right. Now let's talk about Bluescape. You joined them, and now you are senior VP, right? Tell us about that experience. How is that going? How you evolved that product?
Um, I would say my Bluescape journey was a rather unique in the sense is that when I joined Bluescape, Bluescape was a roughly about a 50, 60 people company. And today we are a 200 plus people company.
Right.
And our 70% of our company is actually within the product development. And
Mm.
when I joined, our product was a pretty, I would say it was an experimental product, barely had any functionality. It was focusing on a in-room digital collaboration, more of a hardware software systems were there. And from my perspective, uh, there would not be much runway with that. Bluescape used to be compared with companies like Prism, Oblong. They were a hardware-centric graphics display company that's there. And so when I joined, I had a particular perspective. I wrote about white paper, started working with my team. One of the unique thing was the team building. Um, what I would say is that last 4 years, Bluescape, I had almost 100 plus people. We hired all the people completely, you know, through the referrals. Most of the people are
Right.
who I had a chance to work with me, or they worked for me, or I worked with them together and many
Mm.
teams. So, 80-90% of my team members are actually I have team members who I worked with for 19 years continuously,
Right.
13 years,
Right.
15 years, 10 years, 7 years. So I strongly believe, I tell some of my philosophy is that I say companies and teams will come and go, but it's a people relationship that stays forever. So
Right.
I also tell people that 5 years from now, you will not remember a single line of code, but you will remember, you know, who was your coworker. Today
Yeah.
your coworker, tomorrow is your referral. So
Yeah.
you can be very smart, but it is that mindset of empathy and kindness. You need to have that. And with that ethos, we started the company. So our team is a very unique. There are times I had 4 or 5 people single day from the previous companies like Adobe and BlackBerry. They came and join us. Um,
Mhm.
we are a small company, but it is that relationship that we care most, and that we care people very much.
So that means to get a job in Bluescape, someone needs to be in your cortex, right?
Tell me again, please.
I'm saying that means to get a job in Bluescape, someone needs to be in your context.
Not necessarily, not necessarily, but we have hired people outside of my network as well. But
Yeah.
we hire a lot of people. Interview is a interview and hiring people. It's actually very interesting problem. I'm a very engineering driven person. So if you
Mhm.
think about statistically speaking, when you interview unknown person and hire, no matter who said what, it's actually probability wise, it's a 50-50.
Yes,
Only
I
that
completely
you might be
second that.
finding somebody as a technically brilliant, but cannot work with
Mhm.
people, highly arrogant, and are very difficult to work with, and maybe very makes a lot of condescending comments to everybody else. At some point, you may will run the team. Your entire team
Right.
might be destroyed. So if you think about it, if someone tells me that, oh, I have a assurance that I can give you guarantee that I will hire a 90% probability I can hire somebody as a great person, I would respectfully disagree, because you have a 50-50 chance. So,
Yes.
and I would rather try, I would rather have a, you know, I don't want to have false negatives, because
Mhm.
in startup companies, the individual can have a exponential impact. That's the difference with startup company and big companies. So hiring is a very much art as well as science, and sometimes you have to think differently. You have to,
Right.
you always have to think about, if you yourself in the interviewing positions, how would you do it? Most of us get carried away in the interviews, where they want interviewer want to show how smart they are. In fact, the idea would be that how can you make the interviewee at ease and see if you can work with the person. Of course, you'll be checking for their technical acumen and expertise, but it can be done differently, rather than saying that, hey, I'm the interviewer, here is how much I'm smart. So it's
Yeah.
a different dynamic, different mindset you have to come with. That's my philosophy.
So that is another perspective. Now let's move in this direction. Let's say if you are interviewing someone, right? So what will you look into that person? What are those key capabilities that you are looking for so that anyone who wants to get a job, who wants to get interviewed from you, he gets some hits?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you, maybe it will help you to it will help me to explain what do I look for and how do I look for it. That's the most important part. Why and how.
Yes.
Um, Many people write in the resume many things. So if you think about, if someone comes to me for interviews, and if I'm interviewing, you and I, anybody for that matter, come up with the very tricky, smart questions, and invariably that person may not be able to answer, because there is a simple psychological fact is that under pressure, vast majority people loses more than 40-50% of their cognitive awareness. So that means they get nervous. So you have to think about that, take that into angle. So what do I do is that I often tell that my interview style is, over the years, the way I've developed is that I will go through your resume. I will, I find myself, I'm fairly confident to take any subject matter and dissect it very deeply. So I would ask an
Right.
individual that, pick up a project in your resume, explain to me in depth. This is where, I am also a big believer of Richard Feynman, father of man, one of the father of Manhattan Project. He had a very that if you can explain no matter how complex idea is that to a person with sixth grade knowledge, that means you understand it very well. So I'm going to pretend I know nothing. So now the individual has to explain to me in depth. So I that will help me to immediately understand how deep the person understands. number one.
Right.
Then I'm going to tweak and twist the parameters to see what they can do. How did they make engineering process? So during this entire process, taking their own subject matter where they worked, that means that helps them to put at ease. But then really on the fly, we change the parameters to see how they think, what they understand, how deep they can go. Pretty much you can decipher how good that individual is. That's my
Wonderful.
own thing. People have a different preferences. Yes, within the company we also do some not live but some kind of programming test, but that's a more of
Mhm.
a offline we do for a Bluescape, because that helps them to think about it. Those are essentially set up for this kind of conversation. That's how we
Right.
interview in Bluescape.
Right. So now you know what you need to do, what how you can prepare the interviews for Bluescape. So I do have a similar kind of style to interview people. Whenever I am doing interviews, I do it in conversational style. I talk to the candidate and make him feel that be comfortable. Tell me whatever you have done honestly, right? And try to go deep in his resume, whatever he has done in introduction. But we can verify that thing which he's seen, right? And that is how I conduct my interviews as well. So we do have some similar kind of style of interviewing people.
Absolutely. And, I mean, thank you for sharing that. And I
Yeah.
would also say that, I have seen many of my long tenured team members and friends and coworkers. They are exceptionally
Mhm.
brilliant, but they don't do well in the interview. So you have to, and you as an interviewer, onus is on you to see, you know, you don't miss out those exceptional people, because not everyone does good interviews. you know
Yes.
and so people have a different. There are people who are really good at interview. That means you ask them a questions, they can really tip of their tongue, they have the answer for everything. Then there are people who actually are deep thinker. You ask them a questions, they'll think through so much, it'll take time for them. But by
Yes.
the time they come back with the answer, you will say, wow, what a touch of brilliance. So you don't want to miss out those people either. So
Yeah.
it's that's why I said there are nuances out there that most of us conveniently ignore, because those are not easy thing to deal with.
Yeah. What do you think about
Pardon me.
what do you think about remote working
Oh,
remote, right? So
absolutely. you know um, Bluescape as a company, we create technology for remote hybrid work. So it will be
yes.
hypocritical for me to say that, what if something against remote, it will be hypocritical. So I would tell you where my perspective lies on these things. If you are very, very early on your career, um, you actually require, this is where I'm going to come with as human psychology. I actually just spend a lot of time reading human psychology as well. I had a lot of interest on that side of it. So if you are early part of your career, you want to get much more closer mentorship. So having some, you don't have to come to work every day, but if you have a closer mentorship, whether remote, local, or visiting office couple of days a week, you need to figure it out, because your career, you are the best driver of your career. You have to think of what works
Right.
best for you. That's the number one thing. Number two, there is another element of human psychology that we ignore, or people don't talk about it. Imagine that, I'll give you an example. I have many team members with whom I have been working for 10, 15, 20 years kind of thing together. So
Right.
if a person I've worked with for last 10 plus years, even if I don't see the person every day, I know what that person would do, and that person knows that what I think of. We have a
Right.
very high bandwidth, yet brief communications are there. But if you're a early, you don't know other person, you have to build those trust. So it is, I find it fascinating is that sometimes when I read and hear people say that, oh, uh, remote work is all evil, they don't work, etc. All us, so the people say, hey, you have to have a in-person things are there. It is not that straightforward. It depends on the people, depends on the context. There are people who needs to go to work, they feel that way. Then there are people
Right.
who think they can be highly productive. I think there are many shades out there that needs to be taken into consideration. So all in all, I believe that there are people who could be highly productive in the remote work settings. However, there are people who feel that they need to go to work as well some at certain times, and there are some cases circumstantial. You may have to go for your getting closer partnership, trust, and etc. It's a combination there, I would say.
So here is my other question. Because the picture you have drawn is absolutely right. That it is dependent on the person, it is dependent on the circumstance. That is perfectly correct, right? But now you understand that in a company environment, things move so fast. How do you judge that this person can be more efficient in remote workspace and this person is going to be performing better in in-house?
Um, I think you are touching interesting questions, and that actually, in my humble opinion, it actually goes back to the leadership style. And
Yes.
I would tell you where my perspective lies. I have seen many different types of leader. I have learned from many different traits. I have learned from it, from people. None of us are perfect. None of us are.
Of
One of the
course.
things I believe is that when you interact with somebody, leader, team members, and etc., try to look for their best quality. So one of my philosophy is your play by your strength, manage your weakness. Don't make your weakness catastrophic things. So very important thing. Most of the reason I'm going to touch this element is that in a performance reviews and etc., manager always try to say, I'm going to give you a constructive feedback. Okay, here's the 15 things you did not do right. In my humble opinion, it should be the other way around, saying
Yeah,
that this is your area of a strength, play by your strength. We know this is the area of weakness. How do you manage it so that it doesn't become a catastrophic? Statistically speaking, if you think, if your 0 to 10 scale in a particular area, if you are weak, let's say you rate yourself 1 or 2, you can polish 1 or 2, make it as a 4 and 5, but you can make it as a 9 or 10. It's statistically not
right,
possible. So
right,
if
right.
you think about it, why I'm going to harp you on your weakness when I can take the different approach? I say, one thing, in some areas you are 7 or 8, let's polish that, make you 9 or 10. And then areas where 1 or 2, make them 3 or 4, so it doesn't become horrible things. That's about it. So now come back to you asked me, how do I evaluate? So this is where the individual comes in. I mentioned earlier that I'm not a big believer of an operational leader. What do I mean by that? I have seen over the years many leaders. Talked with people. People say, "Tell me, when you run the team, how do you understand that team is doing their throughput velocity?" People go through this entire gamuts of massive operational calculation. Okay, all right, here is a burn rate. Here is this many things are there. The problem you do is that if you do not understand your domain very well, what you do is that you rely on those kind of charts and numbers, and from there you try to decipher it. But if you, as a technical leader, you understand the space extremely well, what people are doing, you appreciate how much hard work they do, it becomes very easy for you. So it is very
Right.
important for you. You may not have to know every line of code, but
Mhm.
understanding the domains or space that helps you to understand. How many times you say, one thing, I wish my boss understood how hard it is, these things to work. And
Right.
you know that's a part. So I have these elements of my uh, expertise and understanding that's there. Then of course there is a overall items are there. Okay, I can easily see, if I'm looking at a particular, if somebody can fix, let's say, 15 features, someone can do it, and somebody might do a 3 features, but the 3 features could be so complex, it is a more than the
Right.
15 features. So
Right.
ability
I
to
get it.
understand, appreciate that can let you figure out pretty much what it is. So it's a combination of what things are going out, what things are there. You can easily understand those elements are there. And this comes with the set of mental discipline and a set of observation capabilities, set of understanding and mindset as well.
So deep. Okay. Now let's talk about how much team you have remote and how much on-site. Let's say if we talk about the percentage.
Oh, Bluescape team is a primarily distributed. Well,
Right.
we have two offices. One is in Redwood City, another is in Toronto Waterloo. Our
Mhm.
teams are primarily distributed. Our entire product development team is you know we do not mandate people to come to the office to work every day. We have
Okay.
right now we say 2 days a week people can come in, mostly to collaborate. There are times I do not mandate people to they have to come to work, they have to do these things. I say, all right, if we need to have a face to face, those are our common days, people can come to work. But my entire team is our product entire team is mostly North America, and
Right.
they all are mostly we work from home most of the things, but there are people go to work for sometimes.
Got it. Got it. So in the last, we are in the last sections, right? Tell us some interesting dev stories you must have.
um,
Now, don't say you don't have it. I know you have a lot of empathy, right? But I'm a techie. I know a lot of dev glitches happen. We just had it a few minutes ago, right? So tell us
sure.
something interesting.
um, I'll keep it kosher, but
Yeah.
I'll kind of hint something. um, you know in 2001 2002, when in the Flash we released, if you remember the Flash video
Yeah.
camera microphone, those functionality came in. Prior to that you had a real player and Windows Media Player. You have to click on the things pops up and all. Flash
Yeah.
made it as a seamless, like video and graphics inline playback, and which is where the HTML video playback came in. So in fact, when that came in there, the success of these things did not came from a normal use case scenarios. It's a so-called the other side of the use case scenarios where people use they have to do some of the audio video communication for certain things, and some of the industry we don't talk about, in a normal things. That's where it became popular first. Most of the people do not know that that's how it got started. So by 2003, flash video and camera microphone started dominating, but it actually after released it, that's where it started. Most of the people who don't know how it got started. So it's interesting how
So
human society, human behavior
that means
contributes.
people were getting happy while using your product.
So yeah, that was one interesting funny thing. Other interesting funny thing. Many people ask me, and I will go to a tiny bit details, and that is. Many people ask me that Steve Jobs essentially put a nail in the coffin for Flash. Why is it? Why did that happen? Was it a technical truth or it was something else? So some of the anecdotal stories I personally heard from the Adobe's founder, John Warnock Chaggeski. I had a chance to interact with them quite a few times. So as per them, it was actually 1999 when, as you know, Steve Jobs, after he came back to Apple, um,
Mhm.
Apple was actually in bankruptcy. They had to borrow $250 million or so from Microsoft, Bill Gates. And during that time, Mac market share was so little, Adobe thought they will stop producing Photoshop Illustrator for the Mac tool. And when Steve Jobs heard that, he himself came to Adobe's office requesting them not to do that. There was a bit of a, I would say, not so pleasant conversation. And that actually pissed off Steve Jobs. He said that if I have a chance, I'm going to have a Adobe payback. And fast forward 2007, when they had a chance, for him, there was a couple of things. He did not want to have a separate developer ecosystem. They want to, because they
Mhm.
realize the developer ecosystem very important. And he said that I control the device. I don't want someone else to do it. And I also have a, payback. So it was initially, to be honest, that flash technology was not designed for a low power device, but we also have done a lot of optimization. It was no longer the issues. Maybe there's little issues there, but it is also a bit of the business and the personal vendetta that came into the picture. And here it was. So we made certain mistakes in terms of technical strategy wise and etc. Looking back, you know, and there was the other factors as well. It's an interesting thing. I have
Yeah.
personally seen from the front line. So
Okay. In the last, we want that give some freshies who are coming into the tech field, give some lessons, what you have learned throughout your dev career, right? And in the leading positions as well.
Um, you see, the over the years, this how do you enter in the technology field? What do you do? It got evolved, and I'm going to give you a couple of simple data point, and that is, um, if you say 20 years ago, you come to the industry, you say, I know C++ and Java, you get interviewed, you do that, you get a job. Now it's no longer the learning C++, Java, or JavaScript, or Python, whatever for that matter. Language is important. On top of that, you have a various types of frameworks and all those things you need to know. And then how do you stand out? It becomes very difficult. So now with the all kinds of technologies there, including AI and so on and so forth. So my recommendation, in my humble opinion, what you need to do is that as you are doing your engineering studies or what things you get in, try to get involved in as many open source communities. You have a chance to learn many things. Try to, besides having your academic rigor, try to participate on those communities. Try to start fixing bugs. You can go to any community for that matter. Could be a
Right.
back-end technology, front-end technology. Be indiscriminate. Try to touch many different areas. So if you contribute on those things, you learn. So in that way, when you go for interviews, you can easily claim that, hey, I have worked and participated in such and such open source community. And it also helps you to understand how the real team works, how the distributed team works, how does the professional way to write code, how do you understand the framework? Because remember, writing your own code is a far more easier than reading and understanding someone's code
Yes,
and then
I
figure out how
completely get
to create the features. So that will
that.
be my recommendation.
So thank you so much, Rupen. Each and every word you have said, I can stamp on that because I've been involved in resource augmentation and providing remote resources from Pakistan, right? So each and everything you have said is so deep. The conversation with you was very insightful. And these are the same things which I've learned throughout my career as well. And the people out there who are starting their career, who are already working, they listen it and they need to work according to that. And for the audience, follow us, subscribe us. We will keep bringing you more tech stars like the amazing one we have right now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.